Welcome. Welcome. Thank you for coming. It's great to collaborate with trade. Together, we can get the word out about great Loire wines at great prices. This is an important webinar because consumers continue to show a strong interest in crisp white wines. Sauvignon Blanc is a leading grape in that category, and we're here to highlight lesser-known Sauvignon Blanc wines from the Loire. There is so much beyond the well-covered Sancerre and Pouilly-Fumé. It's time to meet the neighbors and get to know other quality PGI and PDO wines in the region, giving you and your customers more choices. Brought to you by the Napa Valley Wine Academy and the Interloire, this session is part of a Vin de Loire series hosted across the globe and covering different Loire wines. At the end of the session, we'll provide a QR code so you can watch the other presentations. I'm Catherine Bugue, Head of Education at the Napa Valley Wine Academy, and we are very lucky to have Benjamin Delabelle with us today from Domaine Delabelle. He will bring some of the material we discussed to life with his on-the-ground experience with the terroir and the Sauvignon Blanc grape in the Loire. Welcome, Benjamin.
Bonjour, welcome.
Bonjour. The Loire has an advantage here. Sauvignon Blanc is native to the region. Not only that, but the Loire style is in line with what consumers are looking for. The dry wines are refreshing with juicy citrus and our tropical fruits like melon, mango, pineapple, passion fruit, which can be made complex by white floral and mineral expressions, depending on where the grapes are grown. But let's put ourselves in the Loire state of mind via video.
The Loire is our wellspring. The multiple identities of our wines reflect its character, free and wild. For 2,000 years, the rich geological characteristics of the land have been absorbed into our know-how. The Loire proves that the volcanic and oceanic terroirs produce different flavors, and that combining them brings out a natural beauty. Contact with it stimulates infinite inspiration. Through the Loire, we have become a bridge between vineyards and landscapes, designated as UNESCO World Heritage Sites, a bridge between popular and more exclusive estates, between the varying shades of reds, rosés, and whites, between sparkling and sweet wines, between simple and more complex wines. By drawing the riverbanks closer to each other, we produce an immensely rich array of wines. It's important to us to promote this subtle balance with sincerity, because openness to others, the curious and the initiated, is our true nature. The Loire is much more than just our source of inspiration. It is the bedrock of all our creations. By learning every day to adapt and to preserve its environment, we achieve the unique harmony of Loire wines, the wines of a lifetime.
We just witnessed the green beauty of the Loire, and there is a quality wine appellation covering the whole region, the Val de Loire PGI. To give this some perspective, the PGI covers territory from the west by the Atlantic, where you find Muscadet, all the way east over to Cher, where you find Sancerre, and over to Nièvre, where you find Pouilly-Fumé. This numerous grape varieties are grown across this region, including Sauvignon Blanc, but also red, rosé, and sparkling wines are all made in this PGI. Of course, when you have a larger appellation, you generally get some very consumer-friendly pricing, and for the style that the U.S. consumer and others are currently big fans of. Generally, the Val de Loire Sauvignon Blanc wines are dry with lively acidity, this zing of acidity, citrus fruits such as lime and grapefruit, hints of honeysuckle, maybe even some black currant leaf, and a mineral expression. Here's a great example of a Val de Loire wine. While we're not tasting wines together today, I want to point out something here for when you do taste this wine. This wine from Vignoble Cagné or another Vin de Loire PGI wine. First of all, it's 100% Sauvignon Blanc. And while it's a PGI wine with less restrictions on its production, the producer took time to macerate a portion of the skins, 30%, and the wine matured on its lees for 6 months for added texture and complexity. This is a third generation business, and the Cognier family is committed to certification and for environmental practices and sustainable viticulture practices. I mean, this all for this amazing PGI wine. So I'm really looking forward to you tasting a Val de Loire PGI wine. When we talk about, there are a lot of details on this page, but the main takeaways when we talk about the PGI is that it covers, 11,000 plus acres. So there's land to be had. There's wine to be had here. And the PGI produces 33 million bottles with approximately 1.3 million imported into the US. The largest percentages of that, 64%, is white. In general, again, wine to be had, and at prices that, if you were to do a quick search for retail prices, you can find them for under $15. So, under $15 wines, a great offering for those who love crisp Sauvignon Blanc wines. As we dive deeper, we will see diversity amongst the Sauvignon Blanc wines made in the Loire. Why? Why is there diversity in the Loire? Many of the reasons are the same as for the overall diversity of styles in the Loire, because the Loire makes fantastic reds, rosés, sparklings, and whites from dry to famous sweet wines. First of all, the Loire is France's third largest in vineyard size, after Bordeaux and the Languedoc. And it is the longest the longest wine region in France. This allows for different climate zones. With the ocean at the western edge, you have maritime influences, including westerly winds that diminish as they travel along the length of the region. And so there's climate changes to maritime, semi-continental, and then off to full continental. Different grapes grow different, in different microclimates. And of course, the same grape can show differently when grown in different climates. Let's call on Benjamin. You worked in New Zealand and in the south of France, but settled in the Loire for producing wine. What about the Loire drew you in?
We spend a lot of time in the vineyards, so temperature and climate is very important. And during working in the south of France, it was too hot because I come back from north of France, and I see that temperature and healthy walking, it was very important for me and very good in Loire Valley with this influence of the ocean.
So for your working day, the climate was.
Yeah, for the working day outside, and also for the grapes. I think both is important.
Yeah, no. Thank you for sharing that. Well, we're going to be coming back to you with a number of questions. So when we
Perfect.
combine, thank you, Benjamin. So, and also we combine that with influences from the Loire River, the longest river in France, as well as its tributaries, and the grapes or the wine styles change with the growing area. I find it fascinating, for instance, that in a vineyard area by a river in the Loire, right, where you get misty mornings, followed by sunny afternoons, the Loire produces some of the world's most famous botrytis sweet wines. Yet another area not too far away where there's greater air circulation and less humidity, the Loire produces a concentrated dry wine, the Savennière, with great complexity. So the grapes you plant and the styles created are influenced by the likes of winds and rivers. I just love that correlation. And if that weren't enough, there are soils. There are many different soils here, and different grapes have different affinities to grow well or show different characteristics in different soils. It would be a complex class on its own to study the soils of the region, but in short, you've got the massives, and you get ancient soils, hard rocks like granite and schist. And then you have the Parisian Basin, where you find lighter limestone or tuffeau, which is the famous chalk. But the main thing is, grapes are influenced by the soils they're planted in. You can track the varied soils across the region. Benjamin, if you don't mind coming back on, because we throw out soil names a lot in the wine business, we'd love to get a local perspective on the importance of the soils to Sauvignon Blanc wines. Can you share with us some insight?
Yeah, perfect. Sauvignon Blanc is a great variety which don't really like the hydric stress. So, which is important more now, actually, with the warmest climates changing, is to have enough water for the grapes for to have a nice aromatic maturity. And where we are between Cher River and Loire River, we have quite a nice reserve of water in the clay, and it's quite important things for the Sauvignon to can keep the freshness of the Sauvignon. So you have the clay on the left, which is down, and on the top you have the sand, who can give more warmest for the maturity of the Sauvignon. So it's these two part of the soil gives in Wally a very nice maturity and keeps the freshness of the Sauvignon, which is a bit the more difficult at the moment.
Okay. So the clay, that is going ahead and retaining moisture. And so in the hotter months, the vines can act on that, right? Use that resource. And then you mentioned that the sand, that adds some nice warmth, aiding ripening, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it's true. We have it depend which blocks, but we have around between 1 to 3 meters of sand. And what is very interesting is the roots go directly down to the clay for to have this humidity that we can keep during the winter and can re-give during the hot season in the summer. So this is very interesting for the Sauvignon, for to can keep the freshness of the aromatic.
Thank you for that. And
And
these soil pictures, just so you know, are from Benjamin's vineyard.
yeah, it's true.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
So thank you for sharing.
directly from the blocks.
Thank you for sharing those. With all of this complexity, the region is divided into four main areas. As trade, you've likely seen these. If you are new to Loire studies, don't be confused by the name the Sainte Loire. The Sainte does not mean its location is in the center or the middle of the Loire, as you see here. The area is named after an administrative department. But different grape varieties follow the varying influences. Sauvignon Blanc is early ripening, so the shorter growing season that comes with that continental influence that you find in the East is not a problem for the grape. The continental influences, as well as the moderation by the rivers, allows for slow and balanced ripening of Sauvignon Blanc, preserving the grape's vibrant acidity and that aromatic intensity that we love from Sauvignon Blanc. And although Sauvignon Blanc and the Eastern Loire have a great affinity for one another, even in the Eastern Loire, there's varying river influences, hills blocking certain weather, different soils, all allowing for different characteristics in the Sauvignon Blancs made here. Let's explore the different expressions of Sauvignon Blanc with a lens still on the lesser known gems that we can introduce to your customers. And again, with a view towards the style of white wine that consumers are looking for. Let's go to the Haut Poitou PDO, where they've been making wine since the 3rd century. The PDO is south. You could see here where Chinon is. Many people know the Chinon Cabernet Franc, between Saumur and Touraine, technically a part of Anjou and Saumur. The vineyards sit on a plateau at altitude, so about 260 to 400 feet-ish, with some of the hills going up to 500 feet. 83% of the production is white wine. Sauvignon Blanc is the key grape, but Sauvignon Gris is also grown here. The wines can either be varietal or blended. But that Sauvignon Gris, also called Fillet Gris, is a pink-colored grape. It's a clonal mutation of Sauvignon Blanc. The general style that we find here is fresh, with some white floral and yellow fruits like juicy peaches, along with like a Meyer lemon citrus. If you're not familiar with the Meyer lemon, it's a sort of a riper, really fragrant lemon. They grow here in the west of California where I am, and they're just luscious citrus. And a touch of tropical, like passion fruit. This wine is so delicious with like some sautéed shrimp. I love to saute my shrimp in a little olive oil and then get some fresh rosemary. Oh, but anyway, seafood in general is so fantastic with this wine. Let's talk about this Haut Poitou wine from Domaine Latour Beaumont. The Morgot family established the winery in the 1860s, a continuing family business and way of life. For customers who seek, winemakers and producers who farm sustainably, the Morgots farm organically and sustainably. What does HEV mean when it comes to environmental certifications? It translates to high environmental value. So if you're not used to seeing that, there are different certifications. Environmental certifications, and this is one of them. It's a voluntary certification, that focuses on recognizing, and promoting eco-friendly practices, especially in viticulture. This wine can show that nice riper Meyer lemon citrus and that passion fruit. I mean, it just sort of rides on a wave of crisp acidity. Again, family-owned wineries being careful in their farming practices and keeping alive a business decade after decade, that so resonates, with me. Okay, let's go ahead and continue into Touraine. You can see most of the vineyards are situated on the slopes, overlooking the Cher and between the Cher and the Loire rivers. Interestingly, the climate in Touraine, where maritime and continental meets, allows for different grape varieties. In the west, with lingering maritime weather, later ripening grapes are planted, red grapes are planted there. Whereas in the east, where we've got those continental influences, early ripening grapes like our Sauvignon Blanc do well. Again, Sauvignon Blanc in an earlier ripening, is an earlier ripening grape. And so the shorter season is not an issue. The climate there, moderated by the rivers, allows for that slow ripening and the development of flavors while keeping that acidity we love about Sauvignon Blanc wines. And again, the aromatic intensity. So let's go ahead, and there's a little bit of history here we'd love to share. Look, vineyards began to expand in 372. 372. To me, of course, to Americans, that's astounding. With the founding of a monastery in the region. And then, of course, then it became a playground for noblemen from Paris. They built their splendid gardens with their massive chateau. Famous artists were associated in the region. I mean, this is an area to visit. If you have not visited, Touraine and the outer area, or even if you have not visited the Loire, it is just a stunning. I feel like the whole region is just a garden. Here, when we talk about the Touraine PDO, 64% of the wines are white, and the key grape is Sauvignon Blanc. You might see Chenin Blanc and Orbois are also grown here, but they're used for lightly sparkling wines. So if you do see those and you say, those are generally for lightly sparkling wines. So when we talk about the general style of the Touraine, we've got aromatics. We've got great aromatics, very fruity and fresh. We can see beautiful citrus. We can see the riper Meyer. We can even see tangerine, mandarin tangerine. We can start to see some tropical fruits, right? Some mango, some melon, some pineapple, a little passion fruit. Lots to be had here in this wine. Like I said, when I go to the aisles, when I'm in France, pluck, pluck, I'm so excited to see all the Touraine wines available. One wine to consider is from a century-old company. The owner, Paul Buisse, retired and sold to his friend because his friend was in the family, was in the wine business since the 1700s. The farming is organic and sustainable. And the wine is aged on its lees, no malolactic fermentation to retain that freshness, selected yeast, all with an eye towards careful growing and winemaking. The producer, I have to share this, it was fun, going to their website and learning a little bit more. And the producer shares this about visiting the winery. This quote, "Every moment is a garden of flavors and escape," as well as this one. "For centuries, a delicious grape has been cultivated here, as well as a sweetness for life." Good stuff. Another wine to take note of is from Domaine Bellevue, a fourth generation producer which farms sustainably without use of chemical herbicides, for example. The vineyard sits on the right bank of the Cher, 28 hectares of Sauvignon Blanc planted here. Once again, we're seeing they're aging on the lees for added richness and complexity. I mean, these are wines at moderately priced, yet there's so much care being put into producing them. So let's go ahead and go to our next PDO, Touraine Wally. It has a long tradition of viticulture, and specifically, Wally is recognized as the birthplace of Sauvignon. When you see a village attach its name to the subregion Touraine, there is an added element of sort of historic and cultural, richness, and stricter rules are applied. The Touraine Wally PDO covers a vast plateau on a watershed between the Loire and the Cher rivers. Let's call back on Benjamin, because Benjamin, you produce wine in Wally. What do you find special, about this growing area?
It's true, Catherine, about the origin of the Sauvignon, and I know the little house where the Sauvignon was found. His
Wow.
name in Sauvignon, and the name have changed with the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's for that since long time Sauvignon are in Wally, and why I think is because of this climate, because of this soil, because to be in the middle of these two big river, so the Loire and the Cher, gives really the aromatic and the freshness that you can find in Wally. And Wally is a very small appellation, just 10 winemakers, 80 hectares. So the biggest secrets from the Loire, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, hopefully not anymore, not after this session. So the general style we're going to find here, I mean, these are elegant wines. They have a roundness and complexity to them. There's a broad diversity, of aromas that can be found. So you've got floral, you could have, honeysuckle, acacia, you could have some beautiful white floral, hints. But again, citrus, ripe citrus. We might see, lime and grapefruit, but then we'll also see that riper, like Meyer lemon or mandarin orange. And we're going off to tropical fruits. So just beautiful, beautiful, expression of Sauvignon Blanc that we can find here. But look, I don't need to go on because we have Benjamin here. And, we'd love for you to share, about your wine because, you make a Touraine Wally wine.
Yeah, So our cuvée called l'Ellipse is made only with old vines, so more than 60 years old. Our winery is have started in 2014 with my wife Sandrine. And this cuvée, it's always that we pick at the end. So on our old vine, so bit less crops. And the idea is to find really the terroir face of the Sauvignon. So lots of minerality, lots of maturity, but always with the freshness from the Loire. So which is what we're looking for. So lots of volumes, but always a long length at the end. So it's really how we try to do. So we work in organic since the beginning, and we are really proud to be the first vineyards in organic in Wally. But now it's good. With the 10 wine growers from the appellation, half are in organic also. So it's really why we have started our winery. It's because it was in this terroir.
Being first is never easy, so bravo to you. And I wanted to point out, because Sandrine is here. While she's not joining us today, just, of course, integral. So I just wanted to make sure we gave a shout out to Sandrine. So great. Look, a quick online search, brings up, wines that are $17, $35 retail. I mean, many Sancerre, I adore Sancerre as well, but many start at that high end. So I think that this is a wine that gives you that, like Benjamin said, beautiful length, gives you complexity, gives you body, gives you so much in aromas and flavors, and at such a welcoming, just, moderate price. I mean, imagine this wine on the table at Thanksgiving, starting off, your palate, cleansing your palate, but also with enough, body and richness and flavor to go through with appetizers, or to even start off with, one of the first dishes of the main meal. To me, this would just be, it's a perfect dinner party wine. Not that you have to wait for dinner, but anyway, beautiful, beautiful wines. So let's go over and step off in our last PDO that we're going to cover today, the Touraine Chenonceau. This PDO stretches across hillsides on both banks of the Cher. The famous Chenonceau Castle is here, but the PDO is named after a celebrated river. And here there was an important quest for quality. You can see here the general style of the wine. I mean, intense aromatics, white floral, ripe fruits, still citrus, for that freshness. And, we've got like maybe mango and pineapple for our tropical fruits. I mean, there is a long length here in these wines as well, beautiful with complexity, the length, and the full flavor and aromas and intense aromatics, a wine that's giving you so much. Another quick wine search, I love to do those, just, for retail, shows, I did find a $15 wine, but I think generally the retail, like 20, 25-ish is what I just saw online. And for a Sauvignon Blanc stunner, again, another wine to start off a dinner party with a bang, it to me is sort of a no-brainer. A wine to try from Touraine Chenonceau is one from Chateau de Cancy. The Cadar family, from generation to generation, has been working the land here. I mean, since 1960, and they're certified organic. Average vines are, I think, 55 years old. They're aging on the fine lees with batonnage, right? Stirring every week, for at least 6 months. This wine has a total of 12 to 18 months aging. So we can expect some great complexity here. I can't wait to try this wine. I'm sort of expecting that the fruit's going to be more confit, more concentrated. But again, I know it'll have vibrant, pineapple, vibrant, tropical and citrus. I want to sort of just sum up, because we've talked about so many great wines here. I just want to sum up, like, these are wines showcase to our customers, to my students. We want to share these wines. Yes, they're made in the style that people are looking for, right? That crisp Sauvignon Blanc style, but they give so much. And if you go from the Val de Loire's crisp, the Val de Loire, if you go from the Val de Loire's crisp citrus and floral notes to the Haut-Poitou's juicy peaches and mandarin with that zing of acidity throughout, Tourain's citrus and riper fruits with a hint of maybe floral like honeysuckle, Wally's balance of richness and freshness with great complexity and broad aromas, onto Chenonceau's full body, intense aromatics, long finish. I mean, there is so much to be had here. I get excited when I talk about the full, breadth of wines that we can offer and share, with our customers. So why did we leave the number crunching facts to the end? Well, first of all, we thought you'd have wine in front of you and you'd be busy tasting. But look, you're in the trade. I think a lot of you love to see these numbers. You might appreciate these numbers so you understand Loire wines in the larger context. I mean, here you have general facts you can find, on the Vin de Loire website, or you can take a screenshot. But many different, fun facts here. I think, you'll see here under the area, 85% of the land is under organic farming or environmental certifications. Just a huge amount. And look, we know that our customers, consumers are interested, in sustainability, in, these environmental certifications. It's something they look for today. Interestingly, here is the top Loire wines imported into the U.S. The PGI and the PDOs that we've covered today collectively make up the largest percentage, like 33%. If you look here, we've got 14% from the Val de Loire PGI. We have 19% from Touraine and the villages. So there is, this wine being imported into the U.S. And if you really love numbers, here are volume numbers per specific Sauvignon Blanc PGI and PDO imported into the US. So you can see the different numbers here for Touraine, for Val de Loire, the Haut-Poitou, Touraine Chenonceau, Touraine Wally. And here, we have, last but not least, over 8 million bottles of Loire wines are imported into the U.S. I think it's important to know that the wine is available in the U.S. for us to be able to share, with your customers. I would love to go ahead and bring Benjamin back on and give him a big thank you for joining us today. I mean, you just brought the material to life. Benjamin.
Yeah, thank you, Catherine, for this moment. It was a pleasure. And Sandrine come back, so yeah.
Is Sandrine with you now? Ah,
Yes.
The
bonjour,
enologist of the
Sandrine.
winery.
Ah,
Bonjour.
bonjour. Oh, thank you so much for what you added today. We shared you via photo with the group, but very, very excited that you brought your material, the details, on the climate, on the soils, on the Touraine Wally PDO, helping to bring that to life. So thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome, Catherine.
Thank you.
So what I would like to share with you now, we have a few QR codes, so I can leave this up on the screen for a minute, but if, you would like to share, something about the experience of the webinar today, we'd love for you to go ahead and share that. And we also have a QR code for watching the other seminars. As I mentioned, this is part of a series, of the Vin de Loire different wines covered by different educators across the globe. So very exciting to watch, other presentations discussing other wines. So let me bring on.
Oh, Catherine, we do have some questions if you have time.
I would absolutely love to answer some questions, please.
Okay, so it was a bit of a common theme, and we saw it at the end when you mentioned that there's 85% of the Loire have the some kind of environmental certification. Could Benjamin speak to, what he does in his vineyard, because we know he's organic, and what he does with, the challenges, I suppose, of going organic, but also what he feels that does to his wines?
Yes. Great.
Yeah,
Benjamin?
so
Yeah.
yes, for me, organic is the base because for me, it's really a work with the weather, with the soil, and you have always to change your practice because of changing of weather or things like that. So some years is quiet, some years is very difficult. Like 24 was very complicated, and 25 was just simple. But for the wine, for me, it brings lots of complexity, lots of tension in the wine. It's really very different because when you see your analysis, you always see that when you are in organic, your pH is a bit more down, so it gives really a long and straight in your wine. So it's the vision that I have from the organic way.
And again, being first, to do so. I think, I'll tag on too that, look, the region, is 85% either organic or with an environmental certification, and they plan to be 100% by 2030. I mean, this is incredible. And I think it really speaks to, consumers. They care about this. So thank you for sharing that. Any other
You're welcome.
questions, Stephen?
Yes, the first one, Catherine, could you go back to that QR code? We didn't quite have enough time to. There we
Yes.
go. So
Yeah,
that's
for the other webinars.
that was easy. Now there was, I think you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but this the growth of Sauvignon Blanc and the different appellations. But what is the fastest growing Loire appellation for Sauvignon Blanc?
Okay. Well, the Turin PDO is just, 1.6 million bottles, are produced. And so I think it really is the visibility of Turin. And again, that the Turin is giving you, this is, this region produces still wines with ripe citrus flavors and into tropical, made complex with some floral and mineral expressions. I mean, these are wines that, our consumers are looking, it's a style they're looking for. And that is, the big, sort of appellation that's available, for sale.
Thanks,
I
Catherine.
like these. Keep the questions coming.
Two other things. The first one, can we see the other QR code
Yes.
on the previous slide? Excellent. And then finally, this is for both you and for Benjamin. If we were to think of some really safe food pairings to go with these Sauvignon Blancs, what would they be? What would be your go-to?
Ooh, do you want to start us off, Benjamin?
For me, the first things is Touraine Sauvignon and Touraine Wally. The best way is just a glass for aperitif, but during the aperitif, you can, for me, continue with lots of all of the fish food, all of the sea part, and even with nice salads and aspergillus. We are also a place with aspergillus here in Wally will be the best.
Now I'm getting hungry. I think, Also, I love the seafood that Benjamin mentioned, but crustaceans. Oh my goodness, so good. That crisp acidity against the richness, that like Dungeness crab can have or lobster can have, but also just sort of bridging that mineral bridge, with oysters. If you have, a Loire, a Touraine, Sauvignon Blanc, or any of these wines with oysters, I think they'd make a great accompaniment. Some of those wines that we discussed, like the Touraine Wally and the Chenonceau, and they have this richness and roundness. I think you could match those with sort of baked, or fried chicken, really poultry stews. I think they will even match up to some game, hens. Oh my God, that would be such a great dinner, party to have sort of hens and then show one of these, rich, beautiful Sauvignon Blanc wines that have this lovely roundness and richness and complexity. So I think even poultry and game. What else? I mean, I think, of course, all of I think curry dishes. I would see it in like a chicken curry dish. Okay, now I'm really getting hungry. What else? I guess I just love food, so I could go on and on and on. But lots of Benjamin mentioned salads, and I could these are, well, this is what one thing that I eat. With my Sauvignon Blancs is a like chicken Asian salad. Love that combination. So I'm sure you don't want to stay on another half an hour, but I'm sure I have a list worth a half an hour.
Thanks, Catherine.
If I could, I think that a lot of times I get questions. We do presentations in front of trade, and I get asked a lot when I'm talking about a certain wine, um, why these Loire Sauvignon Blanc wines, versus other wines that people can choose. And for me, it even gets personal because I'm like, I know that I can go and pick if I see the Val de Loire PGR, if I see Touraine PDO or one of the other Touraine Village wines, then I know what I'm going to get in the bottle. I know that it's going to be, crisp and lively. I drink California Sauvignon Blancs, but you don't know what you're going to get, right? Your customer doesn't know, is this one that has oak influence? Is it not? Is it, there's many different styles available. Yet, when it's Loire Sauvignon Blanc, you know what you're going to get. You know that general style that we've been sharing throughout this session. So it makes it so much easier. Not every customer, has all the information at their hands. They just want that style that they love. And here, look, all of these wines fit into that general style.
And Catherine, just finally, there will be an email sent out after this, the thank you email, and we'll include distributors of these wines as well, because we know a lot of people will be keen to get their hands on these wines after this.
Yes. We love to email. So yes, absolutely. You'll get a follow-up after this session. And thank you again for joining us. We know as trade, you've got a lot of things, pulling at your schedules. So we really appreciate you being here. And a big thank you to Vin de Loire and the Interloire.